Merry meet Libra. Thank you so much for joining us for this 2-week reading for all Libras, sun sign, rising sign, and or moon sign. Today I'm reading with this beautiful Stone Visconti Tarot by Lily Stone, and I've already purified with this Guerlain Eau de Cologne. And you can find links to purchase each of those products in the video description of this video right here on YouTube. Let's see what's in the cards for all you gorgeous Libras. Starting off with the 7, is that right? 7 of Wands, followed by the 8 of Cups, and then, 2 for the 9 of Swords. Okay, so let's start with the 9 of Swords. The 9 of Swords is the card of worry. And worry is something that we are trained to do and we are prone to do because of how we were trained in this world. And it's a trick that the ego uses to keep us off of the present moment. And it makes us believe that somehow we're protecting ourselves when we're worrying, but we're doing the opposite. So when you start to worry, what you're doing is you're trying to live in the future, and you somehow believe that your worried thoughts are keeping you safe, somehow that's defending you from something. And it's the opposite. It's keeping you vulnerable because you aren't where your power is. Your power is in the present moment. The present moment is the only place where things can be done. Obviously, if there's something that is happening that you need to do something about, you can do it. But if you can't do it, worrying about it is actually contributing to the problem, not the solution. So you have to really discipline yourself to shut down the worry when it starts coming. And it can be a challenge because we are so habituated to worry here. And you're separate from the pack when you stop worrying. So what you can do is, if you can't shut down those worries, especially if they're real intrusive type thoughts, you can use my off switch or something similar technique. But if you just search on YouTube for Gotoga off switch, you'll come upon a very brief video, and you can learn this technique, and you can apply this technique in as little as a second. And I would recommend that you use it a lot if you notice these worries coming up, because they are keeping you out of your power. Now, what's keeping 3, 6, 7, 8? What's keeping you in your power is listening to that inner guide. You see, the inner guide is always in the present moment. And so when you're listening to the inner guide, you know what to do, when to do, what needs to be done. And a lot of time, your inner guide will just say, don't do anything. Just chill out. And that can be really challenging for us because we think we need to be doing things in order to, solve problems or whatever happens to be before us. And sometimes the inner guide's instruction to not do anything can be a problem. And so then we think, well, I know better than my inner guide. Obviously, I'm not listening to an inner guide because the inner guide would tell me to do something. And a lot of today, I think for you Libra is going to be, or for these next couple of weeks, is going to be doing nothing. But definitely listen to that. You're in the midst of an upgrade right now. And so when you're in the midst of an upgrade, that's where the ego wants to get that worry going, because then you can delay the upgrade or even annihilate the upgrade. Because worry is creative thought used against yourself. Now, luckily for us, most of the things that we worry about don't come to pass, but some of them can, especially if you have a lot of faith in the things that you're worried about. If you're just sure that they're coming to pass, and then you can, when they come to pass, you can say, see, I told you. And you don't even understand how much of a part that you played in the creative process of having those things come about. I'm not saying that you're completely responsible or that you should blame yourself when bad things happen. That's not what I'm saying at all. But a lot of times when we worry and we don't understand the power of the creativity of our mind, then we also don't allow ourselves to take responsibility for our part in the manifestations when they come about. But then the opposite is true. When something wonderful manifests for us, we don't take responsibility for that either, which means we're outside of our power. And then we just believe that everything is up to the fickle finger of fate, as they used to say on Laugh-In back in the old days. I'm dating myself. Okay, we've got a 2 of Cups. There we go. We can get these all in here. Oh, 9. 2 9s. I like this 9 better than this 9. And then we've got this 2 of Coins. So we've got 2 2s. Very nice that we have the cups and the coins here. But the 2s here are representative, of impatience. This is an impatience with yourself. What's wrong with me? Why aren't I farther along? Why do I have problems? I should be better. When will I get better? Usually the 2 of Cups has a lot of I'm not good enough, I'm defective merchandise, those kinds of thoughts. And then what happens is we learn a lot of spiritual lingo, and we recognize, well, that's not an acceptable way of speaking to myself. So we couch it in other more socially acceptable terminology without actually changing the underlying thought, which is what is really necessary. So any thought that even smacks of I'm not good enough or somehow I'm defective merchandise is off the mark. And you have to call the thought out. That's up to you to say, no, 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 no. We don't do that. We don't do that. If your best friend was sitting in a room and some person started saying horrible things about them, or even if they weren't in the room, wouldn't you stand up for them? Wouldn't you just say, wait a minute, this is my best friend. You don't talk to them. You don't talk about them like that in front of me. None of what you're saying is true. Who are you? Well, you deserve the same thing. When the ego mind starts to tell you that you're not good enough and you're defective merchandise and who do you think you are, even breathing, that kind of stuff, you have to stand up for yourself and say, hey, wait a minute. You don't get to talk about me like that. Who do you think you are, you ego you? And just standing up for yourself like that is really helpful, because it reminds you, wait a minute, I'm sorry, I just got distracted by all these cups. Anyway, so it's a good thing for you to stand up for yourself, because it reminds yourself, hey, wait a minute, I'm perfect. I was created perfect. There's nothing that's wrong with me. And now, since I'm learning how to listen to that inner guidance, I have nothing to worry about. So I don't need to be impatient. I just need to accept these upgrades that are happening. I do deserve them. I'm not going to let them get shut down by my own critical thinking about myself. And it's not that it's not okay to sometimes be critical with ourselves and hold ourselves accountable and those kinds of things. That's okay as long as there's a gentleness and a kindness and a lovingness about it. But when the ego gets a hold of those concepts, it abuses us with them. So right now, you don't need to worry about being accountable, Libra. You're fine. You're just fine, just the way you are. You're more than fine. Fine isn't a big enough word for you. You're perfect the way you are. So you don't need to be held to account for anything. The only thing that needs to be held to account is this inner voice that's trying to bring you down. And the same thing that's been happening to you in that regard wants to project that idea of not deserving into your physical manifestations. So all of those financial goals and things that you've had, that same ego mind wants to destroy those by saying, well, who do you think you are to get any kind of financial gain? You're not good enough, remember? Right? It's such a sick game that the ego plays with all of us. You're not the only one it does that to, obviously. It happens to all of us. So when that comes up, the good thing about that is that anytime the ego really comes up and out to try to get you to decide against yourself, it exposes itself. And when it exposes itself, rather than succumbing to the worry of it all, listen instead to that inner voice that will disregard it. You don't need to kill the ego. You don't need to fight against the ego. You need to stand up for yourself by disregarding the ego and just saying, no, none of that's true. None of that's true. That's all just nonsense. And then reaffirm What are your goals? What do you want? You can have anything you want. That's what this beautiful 9 of Cups is all about. You are highly magnetic to your good. And right now, you are very, very powerful. And you can draw whatever you want into your life. You can create whatever you want. You have the power right now. And the ego sees that, and it's trying to paralyze you by saying, no, you're not good enough. No, you don't deserve it. Oh, you should worry about things. Whoa, everything bad's coming. Right? No, we're not taking that anymore. We're not doing that anymore. You've done that. You've been through that. You know better, right? So this is just a little moment in time to recognize those patterns long before they establish any problems for you, because you've already done this kind of thing in the past and you know it's not good for you. So instead, we're going to focus on what you want. These 9 cups here are really powerful, and they can pull into you anything that you want. Anything that you want. Now, when they're on top of this 8, I love it, because for one thing, when you're not only can you pull in anything you want, but you can ask your inner guide, what do I really want? Because the inner guide knows what you want outside of the ego, so you can't be fooled. It can't be fooled, It can't be fooled by the ego. So if you that's an even more powerful thing to ask. Instead of, what do I want? Okay, I'm going to pull it into my life, is to ask that inner guide, what do I want? What was it again? What do I really want? And the ego and the inner guide can show you, remember, you want this. Oh, that's right. Can't wait for that. And then pull it into you. So you're very powerful right now. You're very, very magnetic. Not the time to be indulging in worry. Not the time to be indulging in self-hatred or any of that, self-denial. Instead, it's time to accept the upgrades that are coming and get clear on what you want, because this is a powerful time for manifestation. And you want to manifest what you want, not get into all of these old games that you've already gone through. You don't need any of this anymore. So, but the ego does try. It gives it its best shot, but you're not going to be fooled. You're not going to be fooled. And you've got that inner guide right there each and every step of the way to help you. Just stay conscious, just stay in the moment, get out of the worry, get out of the self-condemnation, and allow those upgrades to manifest in the most wonderful way. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. We will see you in another 2 weeks, Libra. Until then, blessed be.